Welcome everyone to Sister Science. Today, my conversation is with my friend Hayley Oshanek. Hayley and I connect through yoga. We connect through our children, and we most recently connect because she is the current owner of Alchemy Yoga, and that's where we see each other. So I had a walking out of a coffee shop conversation with Hayley that sparked my interest. And I wanted to be able to continue that conversation here today. So welcome, Hayley.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jill. I'm honored to be here. I won't lie, this is my first time ever doing anything like this. I've been on YouTube before teaching classes, but I've never done a podcast or anything kind of this intimate and getting into the kind of deep and the down and dirty of kind of yoga, right? And where
Yeah.
it comes from and where my beliefs stand with it. So yeah, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here and yeah,
So
wonderful.
tell me, I'm going to give you the big question right off the bat. What brought you to
Yeah.
yoga?
Yeah, well, my story goes, I've always had an athletic background. So, as a kid, I was always playing sports, um, went away to a private school that was sport related and kind of played high level sports. And that kind of followed me all the way through my 20s. I think I was 21 or 22 years old when I ran my first marathon, took a journey of running. And of course, when we start into running, our bodies are sore. And we're always told by our coaches that we need to stretch. Um, Probably when I was in my later 20s, I'm like, I'm going to start yoga and had began a very short yoga journey in Red Deer at the community center with a wonderful teacher. And I forget her name, but she was just absolutely beautiful. And I really, really enjoyed going into classes, only went a couple days a week. But then there was kind of this old athletic person where I was a runner. I turned to triathlon. I was doing marathons and Ironmans. And that kind of, there's only so much time in the day. My previous business that I owned in Cochrane was a gym with my ex-husband. So that was kind of where we went. And we just stretched at the end of the class for 5 minutes to help us with our calves because we'd been on the bikes for too long or something like that. But there was always kind of that yoga kind of inkling that I should be going to yoga. But truth be told, I was scared of yoga.
Okay.
And not so much about the physicality of it. I think this goes back into my story from more of the heart side and the brain side and the soul side. I probably had a deep sense that my life wasn't working for me for many, many years. My marriage wasn't working, and I had the sense that yoga, I knew it was going to be transformation for me, and I wasn't ready to do that.
Mhm.
So that is something where if people that know me from the gym world are like, I can't believe that you're now doing yoga because it isn't where I wanted to be at that time. Looking back at it now, the reason why I didn't want to be in yoga was because I knew it was going to be a portal to changing my life, and I wasn't ready to make that commitment. So I kept on doing what worked.
It's funny.
Run my body to a ground, bike my body to a ground, swim till my shoulders where I couldn't lift my arms anymore. I was in a space in my life where that's what worked, but it didn't.
There's
It
a
wasn't working.
there's a statement in the Yamas and Niyamas under Satya, which is truth. And it
Mm-hmm,
says, when people say, I don't know, they
mm-hmm,
actually do know, but the
mm-hmm,
cost of their truth is too high a price to pay.
mm-hmm.
So sort of
Yeah.
what you're saying is that you knew,
Mm-hmm.
but the cost of that portal of entry into yoga, the cost of that transformation was gonna, there was some costs there that you
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
pay.
It was too big. Um, I would
But you
say I'm
paid
a
it with your body.
totally paid it with my body and it paid it with my heart and who I was, and really down to that cellular level. Was I paying the price of not choosing
Okay.
to have the courage or the capacity to move my life in a different way. And I would say there's some reasons. I've done a lot of self-work and a lot of therapy and a lot of different systems to figure out why was that such a hard transformation for me to make. Something about my history is I was 18 years old and my parents lost my parents tragically in a car accident. So when you are just 18 years old and something like that happens, there's a complete loss of control of your life. And I probably spent my 20s trying to figure out how to get that control back. And what I thought was control and power really became a grip that nothing else was going to rock me in that fashion again. Like I had to hold on so dearly and so tight to the life that I had, even when I knew it wasn't working, had gone into becoming a terrible codependent, married to a wonderful person, but that person at the time had some really significant problems. And my grip on my marriage and my family and my life meant more to me than anything else. Yeah. And I had to stay in that really strong power center. And I would say that there are probably people that knew me back then that never liked me. And you might be one of them because we've known each other for a lot of
I've never
years.
Not liked you.
Well, you have to say that now. No. But when you're in that state of control and grip, yeah, you kind of come across to the outside world like this kind of, I don't know, power hungry, in control, if lack for a better word, probably a bitch.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, totally.
I mean, I'm going to say right now, that is not my perception, but it's interesting that that's your perception of that version of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Hayley.
And then I would say that into my 40s is when, so, Oprah says it, you get the tap, you don't listen, it becomes a knock, you don't listen, it becomes a bang, you don't listen. And it just gets higher and worse and bigger. And to the point where you no longer can live the life that you're living. I remember my sister saying, like, you are going to die if you don't figure this out. And not that I was doing anything that was crazy to my body that would be life threatening, but I wasn't listening, was not listening to any of the messages.
Louder.
It became just a slam. And then all of a sudden, you're left there with your life completely shredded apart, maybe be on the floor, a puddle, and you slowly have to pick yourself up and rebuild your life. And what I would say is that yoga did that for me. And not by design that that's what I meant for it to do. But I think off the start when my life kind of fell apart and I was like, alchemy and that space felt like the only safe place for me to be. It really truly did. And people come into the yoga center, into alchemy all the time, and they talk about how it feels safe and how it feels welcoming. For me, 10 years ago, it was the only place that I felt safe. And I was going to classes anywhere from 1 to 3 times a day. Yeah, there were some days where I was in there, and I'm sure Sarah Clark will remember. She's like, what is going on with this woman? Why is she here all day long? It was the only place where, when I was on my mat, where I felt like I could breathe, right? And that's because probably for 20 years of my life, I wasn't ever in my breath. I never felt in control, right? So then it becomes this place where it's like, oh, this is what it's like to breathe. Oh, this is what it feels like to have the earth underneath me. And it didn't matter what classes. There was also probably that crutch of just loneliness and being someplace in community, which is fine. Like I don't think
Yeah.
that that's a
We
bad
can't judge our
thing.
reasons why we're drawn there.
No, I think that we're human beings and we gravitate towards people and we gravitate towards connection. That's not a bad thing. It was a place where I could feel connected to people and connected really like to myself. So that just coming into alchemy and being in that space then took me to the journey of, I was with a therapist at the time and all of those things, but I needed to understand more. I needed to understand the previous 20 years of my life. I it kept coming up in my therapeutic process about decisions that were made. And
Mhm.
I really needed to understand every single decision and especially the bad one. I needed to understand, why did I make that choice? And that kind of sent me down this journey to delving deeper into yoga training and yoga philosophy. And I'd go away. I went to California and I did um, this 6 month program down there that was all about changing your life. And we had to have interviews before going. And we went down to California. I went down to California for the first time for a 1 week intensive with this group of 20 women. And we all had our different stories. We were all there. It wasn't like the divorce group, everybody going through divorce, come down to slow and we'll fix you. Everybody had something different that they were dealing with, but we came together in community. I don't even know the stories of some of these women, but this happened 9 years ago and we're all still in contact. And we did yoga and we spent a week together. We learned all about the chakras. We learned about the yamas and niyamas. We learned about moving our body more in a restorative way, not so much in a vinyasa way, but um, in a restorative way. And we also learned how to move our body in a powerful way. So I'll give you
Mm.
an example. Um, we have a group of 20 women that all have their stories, whatever it is, loss, grief, addiction, whatever it was. And we were trying to work our core and work us to the point. And I would never do this in class. I will let people know I would never do this. But we were up in a forward fold with our back against the wall. So leaning into the wall
Mhm.
in a forward fold for what seemed like hours. And we were getting to the place where we were like, I think the idea was kind of to break us to rebuild.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you can imagine a forward fold,
I
back
get
up
it.
on the wall and holding yourself there to a place of exhaustion, legs can't hold me up anymore, whatever. Like we did stuff like that. A little extreme.
Yeah.
Again, I would never suggest somebody to do that. But we would then come out of these short 30-minute practices and we would be paired up with people. And they would just draw people from, I don't even know how they did that. And then we would be presented with all these questions. And
Mm.
whatever chakra we were working would be the questions that would be
Yeah,
around that. So if we were working on root, working
yeah,
maybe on a balance or whatever, then it
yeah.
would be about what happened in our childhood, those kind of things. And we would move up the chakra levels and then we would do some type of exercise around the chakra and then be presented with questions. And the funny thing is 3 times in a row, I got partnered with this lady who had an addiction. And that was her battle. Me, I was the codependent of the world, the absolute world. I was married to a person that had an addiction, and I became this person who my life was about controlling his addiction. And anybody that's dealt with codependency and addiction, we know we cannot control that person. Um, So here I am in this 1 week session, and 3 days in a row, I am partnered with this woman. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Why do I keep on getting partnered with this person? And it was all I needed to, at the time, see this woman for her struggles in addiction because I didn't understand it. I was angry. I couldn't break past my understanding of addiction and the anger that it did to my family. I could not see her. And I miraculously, universe puts the person in front of you, puts the situation in front of you. Happened 3 times until I could actually see this woman and understand or have empathy or understanding for what she was going through. And then in that sense, then I could then kind of release this grip that I had that I needed to control, not only another person, but myself, if
Mhm.
that makes any sense to you. It was that not only need to control what's happening, but this I needed to let go
Yeah.
and
It
I
fe
needed to be a pedal.
it feels like everything has this there's a pattern to it, isn't there? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have so much compassion for your need for structure and control after losing your parents like that, Haley.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
a
It all went back to that.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you just have to have compassion and love for this woman who found enough structure and control to be able to build a beautiful life. And
Yeah.
then how it's almost like we tip. It's like a pendulum swings, right? You went
Mm-hmm.
someplace and the pendulum
Mm-hmm.
swung too far into control, structure,
Mm-hmm.
rigidity. Like you
Mm-hmm.
sort of talked about like closed fist, rigid,
Mm-hmm.
unmovable, and then the break into the puddle.
And some would say, uh, like a bitch, like I was like that control. Like
So
if you imagine you have all that inside of you, what
yeah.
are you putting out to
What's
the
the ripple?
world?
Yeah. It's all
How do other
like
people
whatever's in your cup is what flows out.
how do other people in the world see you when
Yeah.
you're living with that much control and need inside you? It's not a pretty picture, you know?
Who
It's
did
just
you
not.
find on the mat? When you got to the mat and you were at the mat
Oh,
times a day, who did you find there that you didn't know existed?
well, I still think I'm searching for it. Like, I
Oh,
think that's the fun thing about life. We're always searching. I think the big thing, more what I found on my mat was the ability to let go.
right.
And then from there, when you let go, then do you find the trust within yourself to get up, to walk out the door, to drive up the hill and go back into your life. And I really probably the first thing was to let go of the control and then to rebuild the life in a way where now what yoga I think has given me is that trust in my intuition.
Mm,
So here's another funny story. When I was at Alchemy, we had one of the teachers, and when we were at time for Shavasana and to let go, she would come around and go around to different people, maybe 1 or 2 people every class. And she would just, pull the neck up and push the shoulders down, let the chest come back and relax. And then she would take her 2 fingers and she would connect your third eye with your heart space.
mm,
And she came around the first time to do that to me. And I literally thought I was going to throw up. I
mm.
became dizzy. My third eye was spinning, spinning. It felt like I was spinning on my mat. It was not connected. My third eye wasn't working. I didn't have any intuition, and it certainly was not connected to my heart chakra. There was a disconnect. And I remember talking to her after and telling her my experience, like when she did that and lifted her hands away from me, how, ah. And then I think, she kept doing, and then the intuition started coming in, the trust started coming in, not trust of other people, just trust of myself, trust that I could be in this world, that I belonged in the world. Um, Maybe just going back a few steps to my 18-year-old life, that car accident that my parents were in, I was also supposed to be in. So,
Mm.
there was maybe that lack of trust that I even
Oh,
belonged in this world, that I was supposed to be here, that survivor guilt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of course I am, but I do belong here. But it
Yeah.
took me many years to get there, to find that space of trusting that I belonged here and growing from that space. And it's still, still days where you're like,
There's a reason why it's called practice, right? Because like
yeah,
it feels like we're never really there. It's always just
yeah,
we come back to practice it. We come back to,
yeah,
but you've said
yeah.
some big things now. Like you've just said, I came to my mat to find truth, courage, and capacity.
Mm-hmm,
Truth, courage,
mm-hmm,
and capacity to
mm-hmm,
trust.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's almost like I'm seeing this like this structure and control. And then
Mm-hmm,
you use words like break, release, grip, let go.
mm-hmm,
And then on the other side of that, I'm finding flow, I'm finding breath, I'm
mm-hmm,
finding safety.
mm-hmm,
And it's to me, I'm like literally thinking of this yin yang symbol where
mm-hmm,
what you're telling me is that I've got enough of this. I can't fix it anymore. The yang
mm-hmm,
way, the
mm-hmm.
the structure, masculine control, uh, push way. I have to
Yeah,
find some breath, some flow,
yeah,
some ease somehow,
yeah,
and
yeah.
marry these two.
And bring those two together. Um, and definitely surrendering to the idea of the person that I once was. I have to let go of that idea, you know, and then I just have to be here and have my presence and find that balance and trust that when the balance is off, I know what to do to get the balance back. Trust that I
Yeah,
belong,
yeah,
trust that I have purpose, all of
yeah.
those things.
And those are things that like your story that you've just told gives you every right to have those feelings, and yet they're also
Yeah,
universal.
yeah,
And they are in
yeah.
all of us, those feelings of am I good enough? Do I belong? And like
Hmm.
even like you said, if you were meant to be in the car, there's a piece of that. I just want to cry for you. Like I
Hmm.
don't want you necessarily I don't want you to surrender to the person you weren't once was. I want you to celebrate her. Like what a
Yeah,
fucking
well, yeah,
phenomenal woman who came out of that experience.
yeah. Well, we all have a story.
Yeah, yeah,
Some stories are more tragic, some stories are, we all have a story, and I understand that. Um, but I understand that life ebbs and flows. We are not the, we don't, we're not our story. We're not, we can change. But one thing to remember is that I do find that the tighter that we hold on to an
yeah,
idea or to
yeah.
something, now this could be good, bad, or ugly. The tighter we hold on to something, the harder it gets. And the
Mm.
taps turn into knocks, turn into bangs, turns into life no longer works, right? Turns into the puddle on the floor.
So, so
Um,
I think I'm just in awe right now, but I think
mhm.
that lesson right there is so true. So I have this big question now because you are a powerful yoga teacher.
Yeah,
I don't, uh, like there's some teachers you see them on the schedule and you're like, oh, if I go there, I might get my ass handed to me today, or if I go get there, it's going to be a powerful class. It'll work me hard. And then there's other teachers you're like, oh, she'll be gentle and sweet and kind
yeah,
to me and stuff like that. So
yeah.
you, how does this translate for you when you're at the front of the room with these bodies, these beings, these people in front of you who you've been on the mat 3 times
Yeah.
sometimes, and you know what that mat does?
Yeah.
How does it inform how you stand at the front of the room?
Well, I think a few things here. Yes, I have a strong feminine energy. I probably have more masculine, um, whether that is my true self or whether that's years of being an athlete, being a runner, being a marathon runner, an Ironman athlete, owning a gym for 10 years,
Yeah.
living with a personal trainer for 20 years. Like, who knows? That's not something that I look back to go. But in yoga, I like to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm
Evident.
one. Yeah, like I'm a person that likes to move. I'm a person that having a strong body for me helps me to have confidence. And I wouldn't say that yeah, like to me a strong core brings me confidence, brings me identity. It helps me create my boundaries in life having that strong core. It also helps me with connection. So I've always thought with yoga, you have to teach from your heart and you have to teach to the person. I can't go and teach a class pretending to be you. I
Yeah.
just can't. We don't have the same life
And we're not supposed
experiences
to. Yeah.
and we're not supposed to. And I enjoy a yin class, and I know that I need that to balance off the yang that I bring in. I know that those are two things that have to work together in my body so that I can have that balance. But for me to teach it, I struggle a little bit more with that. I struggle with finding that softer side of my voice, but boy, do I enjoy it. I love it.
But there's something around um, the experience that you are um, hoping to help people embody
Yeah,
is the connection to their power.
yeah,
This idea, yeah, so like you're using your voice in that class to bring people into experience of their own power, like an
yeah,
embodiment,
yeah.
connecting
I,
to the feeling of their core, their power center, and if you're going to talk chakras, that's that Manipura, right? Like just
mhm.
um yeah, the chakra of power.
Yeah. Well, I would say that I don't like delivering that straight message. And
Okay.
maybe that's because of my personal history. If somebody came and told me that I needed this, or that, or that I needed to change or whatever, I would have been like,
Right.
no way. No
Yeah.
way. No way. That's another knock that I wasn't willing to hear. So I do, it goes back to my personal history of people probably were trying to help me to change, and I wasn't willing to
Yeah.
listen to it or to hear it. So I have that innate trust that I don't need to deliver the message
Yeah.
straight, boom. Like this core, I'm known for my core, for my
Mhm.
core classes. Um, I don't need to deliver the straight 100% message. That the reason why we're doing this core is because we're trying to power up our source here. And this is going to help us for this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
confidence, empowerment, whatever. I don't feel like I need to make that message. What I feel like I need to do is just to create it inside of a person, and they will get the message when it is their time to get it. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just walk out of here standing up a little bit taller, feeling a little bit stronger. Or maybe someday they'll get that, they'll be able to come back to it, right? If that makes sense.
The way
But
you just described that is that
yeah.
I've let go of control of the outcome and I'm letting
Mm-hmm.
people have their own experiences. I'm releasing grip on how this needs to happen, and
Yeah.
I'm just showing up to offer an experience. So, like, if your goal was those things, like you've just explained how you're practicing it as a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we'll have anywheres, in our studio, we can fit up to 30 people in our class, but our classrooms are more around 20 people in a class. Everyone is there for a different experience. And it would be too hard for me to understand all 20 people and to understand where
Yeah.
they're at on their journey. Um, some people are there because they are a puddle and they're picking themselves up like I was.
Yep.
When Sarah Clark owned the studio, she never asked me once why I was there for 3 times a day. She
Yeah.
knew something was going on, but she wasn't asking me why I was there. She just trusted that I needed to be there. And, so we do the same. I'm not going to ask people why they're in my class, but I know for me, things, what is power yoga, power flow, it's dynamic, it's fluid, it's vigorous. We connect with breath and movement. I talk about in power flow the 3 S's, and what the 3 S's are is strength, stamina, and space. Those are what we are working towards. And when we work these structures, we find resilience, we find empowerment, we go into our tapas, our self-discipline, all of those things. And we all find it in different ways, but I'm trying to touch on, yes, our power center in our core. I'm trying to open up the heart so that we can maybe just feel a little bit more in that space. I'm helping balance. Like, it's always fun to do a tree pose, but really, what are we doing with our balance? We're trying to tap into our belonging into the earth, that structure of our foot feeling into the ground, and then feeling that length and rising up through the leg or wherever we're seated or whatever. And that balance is something that maybe someday you're going to be pushed off of your edge. You're going to be a puddle. You're going to feel like you have no balance in your life. And maybe you can come back to that idea that, oh my gosh, spread my toes, push my big toe down, find that earth underneath one part of my foot. Then maybe it spreads to the other side. Maybe it spreads to the heel. Then maybe that helps to pick us up and we can feel that belonging or that sense that we need to feel to stand up and get moving throughout our day, right? So I don't feel like I need to give that exact why are we doing this. I just trust in the idea that if I can, through our asanas, through our postures, work on balance, work on the yin and the yang. Of course, we're more yang in power, we're more constricted, we're holding our bodies, we're like all of that. But then there's also, we need to let go too. And there's always that balance in one of my classes where we might be holding that strong warrior, but then we can also let go and release and those things, right? And yeah, that makes
It
sense.
seems like what you're telling me now is that what you've found is a more healthy relationship with structure and control because you still use it. Like,
Mm-hmm,
and you're still good at using it. You're still good
mm-hmm,
at using those tools to help create an embodied experience, to help create a place of trust, to help grow capacity, to help access courage. You're still
mm-hmm,
using structure, but it's like instead of the control of it, it's
mm-hmm,
like structure then creates the flow. The structure
mm-hmm.
gives place for the liberation, for the freedom, for the flow, for the breath to happen. So it's just
Yeah.
like what you've done is you've taken something that you were overdoing or rigid about or something, and you're still using your like your natural ability to be good in
Mm-hmm.
that structure place, but you've got a way healthier relationship to it.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Like that's what I'm kind of striving to. And I don't, um, yeah, I think that's why I have a hard time really speaking my message in my class because I don't want to give somebody that idea of rigidity that they have to be here, that they have to do this, we have to, like, that isn't where I'm going. That's not what I want to do in this class. What I want to do, and we have lots of women and men that come into my class. I want to just give them that space where they can move in a creative and dynamic space, that they can try some more challenging things. Um, that they can connect to the breath. Like that's a huge part of our flow, is just that connection to the breath. And if that's all you get out of the class and you see all the other stuff and you're like, nope, that's not for me, that's completely fine. But if it's your day or your time in your life where you need a little bit more power brought into yourself to help you through your external world, through the gates when they open the doors, like
Yeah.
that's important too. That is really, truly just important. I think that with women, we kind of we can meld into this idea of what a woman is and where we should be, and we're running and we're frantically chasing after kids and we're trying to make everything right for everybody else, and we don't make it right for ourselves. And sometimes just having that space to come into where we create strength in our body, legs, arms, core, back, whatever, we leave, we stand up a little bit taller, we feel a little bit more energized or vigorized or whatever the word you want to say, and we can take that feeling out to our outside world. And then maybe, yes, we're still women, we're still moms, we're still wives, we're gonna do it all, because I think that that's sometimes women just feel like we have to. But maybe we also do it from a sense from ourselves, where we're going to take the time and not just be running frantically chasing after people, that we can have that time where we're like, yeah, no, I'm going to set this boundary. I'm not doing this right now.
So it's
you
almost
know?
like you're wanting to give women the experience. Like when you talk about what you were wanted, you wanted to feel like you belonged in this world. You wanted to feel like you could trust your own intuition. You wanted to be in this, and you deserved to be in this. Like
Mm-hmm,
all of those things that you were seeking and looking for when you were a puddle,
mm-hmm.
Hayley is giving you that class. You're going to walk
Yeah.
out and she's going to give you, there's something beautiful in yoga that is the medicine that you need is the medicine that you teach.
Mm-hmm,
There's
mm-hmm,
something really beautiful about a yoga teacher that is connected to, oh, I know that this is my medicine. So I'm
mm-hmm,
actually going to also share it with you.
mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, in a kind of sneaky way.
Well, and yeah, I mean, maybe not
Yeah.
sneaky, but not overt.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna clobber us with a 2x4 telling us why we're doing it all. You're just gonna allow it to be what it is,
Yeah.
take what you need from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we all need to recognize that our bodies are stronger than what we think that we are. Our mind will give up before our body gives up.
Yeah.
And maybe staying in our breath and maybe softening through spaces can help us to have that strength in other spaces in our body. If we're in a warrior two and our shoulders, our arms are shaking, can we relax our shoulders and focus more on our legs and draw that front heel back to the back? Like,
Yeah.
can we find can we find that strength in other places to ease the
I know
strength
that,
that we're feeling?
yeah. I know that you don't, I mean, we've just almost talked for an hour, so clearly you can't
Oh,
deliver this message in your class, but
yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now that when people listen to this, they're going to want to come to your class. Because like as you're talking, I'm like, damn, I need to be in that class more. I need to hit a Hayley class more often.
Well, and to know, I always say people that come to my class, um, don't come in with the expectation, or don't set the intention that you're going to be 100% through it. My job in teaching some of the people that coming into the class is to keep on adding that little bit of layering up, this little bit of something different, something new, something. And I'm creative in that way. Like I'd love to create that. So when
Yeah.
you're coming in for the first time, you might be like, oh my goodness, what is this? Like there's no way I can get there. Well, that's not the intention. The intention isn't to be like the person in front of you. Your intention is to be within your body and to get the part of it that feels right for
Yeah.
that given moment. So,
100%.
allow yourself the 50% or whatever. Don't worry about the people around you. Just be in your own body as to what feels right for you in that given class, right?
So
Mm-hmm.
I can't let you go before I ask you a final question. And that
Yeah.
is that in the last couple of years, you bought Alchemy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I I just want to know about that. Like, so if you've built, connection to your truth, capacity,
Mm-hmm.
courage. You've done a beautiful job of creating your life. And what 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 made you buy a yoga studio? What made you buy a yoga studio?
Yeah. Well, it was a big part. Alchemy has been a huge part of my life for the last 10 years. It's really truly one of a few things, but one of the most important parts of rebuilding my life when my life seemed like it was falling apart. Like seemed,
Yeah.
I'll put it in
Yeah, yeah,
quotations,
yeah.
but it felt like that at the time, but probably being over dramatic. But it was a huge part of my life. And, you know, becoming a yoga teacher and Sarah allowing me to teach there, and then moving over to Jody and Kyle through the pandemic. I was one of those teachers that was doing it online with
Mm.
Kyle videotaping
Yeah.
and all of that. And that truly is because I do think that, you know, when we talk about those 20 people in the class, you don't know everybody's story, but there could be one, Hayley Oshanek in the class, that really truly needs to be there.
Yeah.
That is their place where they're connecting with themselves for the only time of the day, the
Yeah.
only time of the day, and the rest of the day is feeling out of control. So when the situation presented itself, yeah, like it to me, it was like, no, this place is special. It needs to stay open. It needs to thrive. It needs to be a space for people to come into for wherever they are in their yoga journey. This is an important place. So, you know, it was Dan and I started talking, and we started talking with Jody and Kyle, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. I think Dan and I have a really good connection and a really good partnership. We both have busy lives. You know, Dan's a
Yeah.
lawyer. I have my other business. But you know, and it wasn't even a huge conversation that we needed to have. We both knew that we had other things going on in our lives, but it was something where we both felt like, no,
We could do
Cochrane
this.
needs this.
Yeah.
The community of Cochrane needs this. This is a place that can do service for the community of Cochrane. So it just was something that, you know,
Mm.
everything lined up, and
Yeah.
and then we were able to do it. And I think that we're doing a good job at providing that space for people to come into. I hope, you know. We're
Okay,
always
so
looking for feedback, but
okay, go back and talk to the Haley Oshanics of the world who yoga represents something that they're afraid of. They did a class 6 years ago and there's something there and they're not going because that transformation is something that they aren't ready for, they're scared of.
Mhm.
What do you say to that person who is in that spot where it it might be what I need,
Yeah.
but I ain't going there?
Well, it, you know, if they're not ready, they're not ready. Like I'm not forcing anybody into any. I was personal trainer and nutrition
Yeah.
coach for years, telling people what to do.
Yeah.
I don't play by that game anymore. Um, I think that people will drip into yoga at
Yeah.
different phases of their life. I'm not expecting the whole population of Cochrane to all of a sudden become yogis and stuff. No, that's not. Um, I think that when the place intrigues you, whether you see something on Instagram, you know, we're doing our November yoga challenge, and people saw it on Instagram and they were coming in and being, yes, I want to do that. That's great. That's wonderful. Come in and be on a mat for 25 classes in November, and amazing. That's wonderful. I don't really, yeah, I want to just create a space where people feel fine to come into. They might leave, they might try something else, they might go to F45, Cochrane Boot Camp, whatever. But we are always a welcoming space to come back to. You don't need to feel like did it once, too embarrassed to go back because it didn't work. no, I understand. Life ebbs and flows. It takes different ways. Bodies change. We move in different ways. But I want to have Alchemy to be that space where people definitely feel always welcome to come back. Um, yeah, does that make
That's your
sense?
message. Your
Yeah,
message is that, sweetheart, we're here when you're ready.
yeah, we're here when you're ready. Yeah. And we see you where you are.
Mhm.
And my class might not be resonating with you. Totally
Doesn't
fine.
matter. Yeah.
I don't take personal egregience, or I don't feel my self-confidence doesn't lower as a teacher because you did my class once and you're like, that is not for me. I realize that. I realize I'm not for everyone. That's okay. But there might be times in your life where you're like, I kind of want that grit, or I want fun or
Yeah.
dynamic or what. Yes, come on in.
100%.
Set your intention. Don't make it to be like the person in front of you. Stay on
Yeah.
your mat. Be within yourself. Do what's right in your body. That kind of thing.
Oh man. Okay, first of all,
Yeah.
I just have to say my intuition that I needed to continue the conversation that we started accidentally outside of a coffee shop
Standing outside.
was
Yeah.
dead on.
Oh,
So
good.
thank you. Oh, Hayley, like I just want to tell you thank you. I feel like um your perception of how you come off in the world, I don't think it's accurate. But I would say that you're not like this like open book.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
thank you today for
Yeah.
sharing a piece that we don't always get to see of you. And just like letting us fall in love with you because man, I love your message. I really, really, really do. And
Yeah. Well,
I'm
thank you, Jill, for having me. And I think that the work that you're doing out in the community and beyond Cochrane, of course, is so important because I know that you gravitate towards the sisterhood, but people need to have safety. They need to have connection. They need, like, it's just such important work that you do. And I definitely, you coming into Alchemy and doing your classes, I love your classes. I love your messaging. So, yeah, just thank you for what you do out in our yoga community and beyond the yoga community as well.
I mean, I do think that that's the other thing that both of us can say to people is that I would say my yeah, yoga is my community and the
Mhm.
people that you connect to in it are on a path of finding their own voice, healing from their own puddles, um, and providing space and opportunity and um, invitation for everyone that we come in contact to be like that too. So there is something about this, although it might feel like it's intimidating or terrifying, like you
Yeah,
talked
for
about your
sure.
version of you, there's something about it that has a place for everyone.
Well, and isn't it so cool that we have yoga
Yeah,
that can mean so many different things to
yeah,
every different person?
yeah,
Two people lined up on a mat and what it means to one person and the other person. It's a physical practice. Some people are there just for exercise. Other people are there for life transformation.
yeah.
Like it is truly, you can't do that in running. You just run. So yeah, it's super cool, right? What
Yeah.
we can take out of our
Uh, well, I just have
practice.
immense gratitude, and
Yeah.
I don't use the word namaste very often, but I just want to say it right now. I just feel like I see the light in you. I see
Uh,
and honor the light in you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I love you, Hayley. Thank you so much for being here
I
today.
love you too, Jill. That was absolutely a pleasure to do. And yeah, we'll touch base again soon. Okay. Take care.